Disclaimer. Although no vulgar language was used in this video, the lack of profanities is well compensated for by the absolute futility of its content.
Cool. Okay, well, I reached out to Tony. And Tony, you want to, I will admit that I have a tendency to invite friends last minute.
Mm.
In my economy of time, 58 minutes is a lifetime, but some people think that is not enough. That wasn't the case with Tony. The reason Tony couldn't be with us today is because he doesn't like the topic.
Because he has a what?
He doesn't like the topic.
Oh, he doesn't like it.
Yeah. So here's the exchange. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Here's the exchange.
Well, I guess, is it because he's older and he does
No.
make him think about death or something? Or
He will be a better judge and he will be able to tell us who is right, who's wrong. But knowing him as long as I have, and as well as I do, Tony doesn't like anything negative.
Mm.
When Tony was teaching acting, he was the most positive, optimistic, encouraging acting instructor you can ever meet. He always focused on what you did well, never on what you did wrong. Never.
Okay.
He doesn't believe in that. So naturally, he declined, which is it's a great loss. This conversation is a lesser conversation, whatever. All right. I wrote, well, we had a meeting tonight at 10. This was at 6:31 p.m., so it wasn't too bad. To talk about Decay, will you let it join us? His response at 8:09 was, not my favorite topic. I think I'll decline this time. I wrote, okay.
Right. Well, you know what? I think he would have appreciated, because I was giving it a little bit of thought. Or maybe, I don't know if you want to start and then we get into it, but I'll just throw it right out. Oh, you can always splice it in later. But I was giving it a bit of thought, and, everyone thinks of Decay with the negative side.
Yeah.
Dying.
Yeah.
Withering. Things going away. But there's another side of Decay that not too many people mention, which is, number one, everything decays.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about everything, in which, suns decay, galaxies decay.
Right.
We're talking about things beyond just our little blue planet and our little lives. Everything decays.
So why talk about Decay? Go ahead. Finish your thought.
But then the other side of that is that everything that decays is the seed to more life and to more change.
Correct. Well, before we get deeper into it, why do we want to talk about Decay on south of Proper here? First of all, like you said, it is unavoidable. Decay is unavoidable. I have a bone to pick with evolution, or rather the term evolution. It's something that I learned here in the States, and people say, you have evolved so much. And there hasn't been one time when I've been told that I had evolved when I didn't feel that I had actually decayed instead.
Mm.
Yeah. The other reason is because it's such a fundamental part of life. And of everything. There's everything decays. But it's also life without decay isn't. Life is but the countdown of decay. Right?
My life at its best is misery.
Against the effects of decay. All right, without further ado, tonight we're going to talk about the imperative subject of decay. Decay. Social
big subject. Another big universal constant in the universe.
We are very unpretentious, right, in our topics.
Mm-hmm.
We became quite general.
Yeah. Hey, they just affect everything.
Is
Yeah,
the
we're not
decay
talking about everything. They just affect everything.
in standards, in morals, in dignity, in religious faith, in honor, discipline, skill. This is what's in art and literature. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and that's why it's such a fascinating topic. But before we go anywhere, I would like to start off with the dictionary definition of decay.
Always a good start.
Yeah, I Google, but I have my dictionary here. I'm just too lazy to get up and get it, so I don't go. I will be curious to see if the dictionary provides a different, perhaps more elaborate definition. But decay is one of those words that is either a noun or a verb. As a verb, is of organic matter, rot or decompose through the action of bacteria and fungi, whatever it is, however you pronounce that. The body had begun to decay. How do you say it?
Yeah, fungi. Or
Okay.
you can say fungi,
So
fungi.
Okay. Fungi,
Yeah.
okay. Right.
So you said it right.
Such a nasty word anyway. And as a noun, that word will not get you far on a date, for example. You should say the word and the girl will work. And as a noun, the definition is the state or process of rotten or decomposition. Okay. All right.
Okay.
The first thing I want to mention is an article. It's a scientific article written not that long ago by a person named Chris Gilliard about the scholastic inquiries into the nature of bodily growth and decay. And it covers three phases that all things go through. One is regeneration, the other one is restoration, and the last one is resurrection. So regeneration, restoration, and resurrection. We said it's the beginning, it's an end that procures a beginning, right? That affords us a new beginning. The reason I moved from Florida to Virginia, amongst the many, was decay. I didn't know that until I started reading into this. But the change of seasons. And I remember the first winter that I was here already in Virginia Beach, my home. I was working at a farm of a friend and family, and I saw the green in the spring, and then in the fall I saw the opposite. It felt to me, as I was walking the horses out to the pastures, as though the farm had gone through chemotherapy. And the most beautiful thing that I've seen in a long time was the opposite, how it came back to life, because I walked down the same path with the horses. And I felt so insignificant, so out of control, because we are at the mercy of that force that kind of kills us and then again renews us, right? That's the word.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're inventing another word lately. You know, if there's any contribution from this channel, is the invention of words. Obviously, that's it.
Expanding the vocabulary, that's always a good thing.
But Gilliard said regeneration, restoration, and resurrection. All right. So in this case, the dictionary does a better job than in previous cases, but it provides a very scientific definition of decay. I think for the purpose of this conversation, we want to look beyond that, you know, the decay of the soul, the decay of ideas, of morals, of so
society.
Many things. Yeah. Civilizations that fall to their knees. You can pretty much smell the smell of decay when a civilization is coming down to its knees. There's revolution, revolt, anarchism, distraction, prostitution, what else? And that's why we want to turn to philosophy. My favorite part of the video.
Mm-hmm.
The first person talked about decay is Aristotle. And in Aristotle's natural philosophy, and we're going to talk about what natural philosophy is. I'll just go ahead and tell you, I was looking it up on Google to simplify for everyone listening. Natural philosophy is what came before science as we know it today, modern science. And I will go ahead and read this. Natural philosophy, or the philosophy of nature, was the philosophical study of nature and the physical universe that was dominant before the development of modern science. It is considered to be the precursor of natural science. Until the 19th century, natural philosophy was the common term for the practice of studying nature. It was purely theoretical. They studied nature as they imagined it. It was more romantic, less structured, right? It was in the 19th century that the concept of science received its modern shape, with new titles emerging, institutions and communities that were founded. Isaac Newton went to Cambridge University, where I went there for one summer. Talk about Decay, you know. I was in Cambridge University, right? I know some people were proud that I was there. It was an international summer program.
Actually, you never told me that, so I didn't even know that.
Well, that's okay. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything about that.
No, that's okay. Now, let's hear it, though. I want to hear it. Just saying, I didn't even know that.
No, I'm self-conscious.
No, no. Hey, I went for a little while to Colombia.
Okay. So. I paid my way there. I paid for the summer, and I went. And I want to say thank you to Robert Kahn for helping me, and for my father. My father helped me too. I was at Selwyn College, and I stayed there the whole time because I was fascinated with the city, and also because I was broke and I couldn't afford to go anywhere else. Everybody else was rich, and they were spending summer there, but I wasn't. And walking around, I noticed that Newton went there, and so the father of evolution. He wasn't the father; he was a plagiarist. Charles Darwin. And then I felt that the institution was decaying, because to go from that to me, yeah. So, but so Isaac Newton's book Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy in 1687 reflects the then current use of the word natural philosophy. So Aristotle's idea of studying nature lasted until the 19th century. And then modern science, as we know, whether it's more structural, less romantic, came to be. But the central idea of Aristotle's natural philosophy is that forces acting upon objects can either set them into motion or make them tend to rest. And I think that decay, like you said, can symbolize the beginning of something new, right? Like the spring and the fall and the spring.
Mm-hmm. Or the beginning of the end.
Yeah, but also it can symbolize rest. And I'm going to show a picture later on of a flower that is decay. It's more beautiful to me than a blossoming flower. I don't know. I think it has to do with the pessimism or optimism thing. The second person, so Aristotle, of course, he was deemed to be the most important philosopher of all times. He was the student of Plato, and when Plato is your teacher, I don't know what to tell you. You don't need to go to Cambridge, I guess, But Aristotle's natural philosophy, he writes about growth and decay, the length and the shortness of life, and youth and old age, and life and death. All right. But the main person, that wasn't a central theme in Aristotle's work, but it was in Emile Current's philosophical work. And this is an interesting character, all right? I'm excited to talk about him. He died in 1995, so 2 years after my stepson was born. He was a Romanian philosopher, an essayist. He wrote essays. And if you're watching this and you want to read his essays, a lot of them are available online on PDF. Everything is available on PDF. That's evolution right there. Right? And he wrote in Romanian, but mainly in French. And his use of the French language was exquisite. But his work has been, I'm going to read off of this. His work has been noted for its pervasive philosophical pessimism and frequently engages with issues of suffering, decay, and nihilism. Among his best known works, listen to the titles of the books and essays that this person has written. You tell me if he was pessimistic or not.
And I'm sorry, and how do you spell his name again? His last name?
Cioran. We'll show it. It's just like, let me see. It's right here. There you go. Right there. Right. Okay. There you go. Among his best known.
I love his books.
Yeah. You gotta look this up. And actually, I'm gonna acquire this. I'm gonna try to read them. Hopefully, it doesn't affect me too much, I'm gonna need to like munch on some Lexapro or something. Among his best-known works are On the Heights of Despair. That's one. And The Trouble with Being Born. Wow. Pretty dark.
The Trouble with Being Born.
Yeah. But it doesn't end there. Kieran's first French book is titled A Short History of Decay. And he was awarded the prestigious prize in 1950. It was called the Rivarol Prize. And he lived a very dark life that was affected. Any psychotherapists out there may be interested in this, particularly Freudians, by the relationship with his mother, of course, the relationship. I don't know why I always say relationship so fast that it's indiscernible. The Latin Quarter of Paris, France, was his permanent residence, and he lived much of his life in isolation with his partner, Simone Boy. I feel bad for Simone. I don't know her, but to be stuck with such a negative, I mean, those of us who are married, and we're blessed to be, happily married, but some people who say, oh, my partner is so negative. Imagine being married to Emil Kieran, who write books titled The Trouble with Being Born. But he was professing a lack of interest in conventional philosophy in his early youth. Kieran dismissed abstract speculation in favor of personal reflection and passionate lyricism. I, quote unquote, see what he says. Okay. I invented nothing. I've been the one and only secretary of my own sensations. And then I was reading on Google, it says pessimism characterizes all of his works, which many critics trace back to the events of his childhood. There you go. In 1935, the Great Depression, when his mother is reputed to have told him that if she had known that he was going to be so unhappy, she would have aborted him.
Oh, wow.
I hope, yeah. Imagine your own mother to do that. You must be one miserable person, right? She said she could not make him happy. This boy was never happy.
Wow.
Imagine dealing with that. Right. But then this person in Google writes, whoever you are, after you're done suing us for plagiarizing your work and reading it out loud, or for Google, we're not plagiarizing, we're reading. Thank you, because your use of the language is great. He wrote, however, Kieran's pessimism is, in its own particular manner, joyful. And that's what I want to focus on. Because there's a beauty in things that have decayed, things that have been weathered by time, right? Kieran, to add to his pessimism, wrote, I'm simply an accident. Why take it all so seriously?
Why so serious?
That's what he said when they asked him about what his mother said. He said, did it affect you? He said, no, it didn't affect me at all. I'm just an accident. Why take it so seriously? So it did affect him. Yeah. The other person that talked about him was William H. Gass, and he said he called Kieran's work a philosophical romance on the modern themes of alienation, absurdity, boredom, futility, decay, and the tyranny of history. The vulgarities of change, awareness as agony, reason as disease. I wish we could make a video just talking about that. Right. The vulgarities of change. Change is so vulgar because it doesn't ask for permission, it just comes.
It happens. Whether you want it or not, whether you're ready for it or not.
You wake up
Look at the biggest change, and in one way, the biggest decay, death.
Yeah, I wake up one morning and there's a chunk of hair missing in my head. It's right here. Let me see. I don't know if you can see it.
I've been there. I see it. It's happening. You better get that can of spray. The black spray.
Decay. All right.
Yeah.
Now, I will talk about Nietzsche, but I'm not, because Nietzsche talks about the social decay, the moral decay of society. He's obviously a critic, and he says that a person who is in decay is anyone who acts against himself or herself. which is everyone, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to mention one thing because the whole definition of decay, it only mentions the biological decay. But as we were slightly saying before we started, there's decay in everything.
Yeah.
Yes, there's the biological. There's decay in, in everything, in the rocks, in the earth. There's decay of atoms and electrons and radioisotopes. There's decay of the sun. There's decay of the galaxy. There's
I'm actually going to
decay.
show you a picture of a sunflower. For the next article I'm going to talk about, I want to show you a picture of sunflower that is decaying. So yes, in everything.
Yeah, well, and I just want to mention that in the sense of saying that it's easy to put decay just to biological because I guess, to be quite honest, that's where we see it the easiest, and that's what affects most people's minds when you mention decay. They talk about, our health, our death, decaying of, plants and animals and humans, but I mean, it goes through everything. I mean, everything decays, and I just want to mention to kind of add that to the definition of decay, which it isn't just biological; it's everything.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's so absolute and unavoidable.
Oh yeah.
And the person I know, very important man in this community, has a very good friend who is a lawyer. So this guy called his best friend to his work, his legal office, and the new secretary picked up the phone. Yes, the office of so-and-so, can I help you? And this guy said, yeah, is that idiot in the back in the office? And the young secretary said, yes, he's in the back decomposing. That's great. That's great. How are you doing? Decomposing.
Decomposing. We all are, technically.
Yeah. Now, Weavy, you've been to Japan. Yes.
I have. Great trip.
And, you liked it.
Loved it.
Very, very amazing culture.
Absolutely. It was a whole different world. I can honestly say just their take on life and their society, it's like being in an advanced civilization, man. Everyone takes pride in the smallest of things. Like we saw what you would call, here, an old truck. But even this old truck seemed impeccable, clean, well maintained. The streets were all clean. You go to a restaurant and you order food and you try to tip them, and they will, if you leave money on the table, they will rush out and demand you take it back. So completely different culture than what we grew up with here in America.
That would be a blessing for my wife. She would love that.
I think a lot of people will.
My wife pulls out a little thing that she has, and she calculates how much we need to leave for the tip. If it's $7.50, she says, she checks it, she double checks, make sure I left $7.50. If I left $8, it's hell for dessert.
It's too much.
Dessert, eat hell. Anyway, there's an article that is a blog post, I think, written in 2008, and I want to actually give credit, which we usually don't do. So this one won't cost us a lawsuit. It's titled "A Philosophy of Decay" by Jazz Green, Jazz Green. I need to spell Green. He talks about a decay briefly, but he talks about a term in Japan called wabi-sabi. And I don't know why, but this is a term that has stuck in my mind and stayed there since I first read it. You know how sometimes you read something in another language and you have to read it over and over again and try to use mnemonic device? Well, not with wabi-sabi. Wabi-sabi stayed in my mind. It's two different words, wabi and then dash and sabi. None of that. It says, just says, it's an acceptance or appreciation of things imperfect, impermanent, incomplete, modest, humble, and unconventional. According to Leonard Cohen in Wabi-Sabi, a book for artists, designers, poets, and philosophers, wabi-sabi exists in the inconspicuous and overlooked details, the minor and the hidden, the tentative and the ephemeral, things so subtle and so evanescent that they're invisible to the vulgar eyes. Rich in raw texture and rough tactile sensation. Their craftsmanship may be impossible to discern the suggestion of a natural process, irregular, intimate, unpretentious, earthly, murky, simple. Wabi-sabi seems to have its philosophical roots in Shintoism and Zen Buddhism. Wabi, so here's the breakdown of the word. Wabi denoting a separateness from mainstream or society, and sabi, an aesthetic appreciation of things devoid of ostentation, pretension, or artifice. At the very end of his article, so I know the Japanese do something where when something breaks, they paint it with gold. And I'm not saying every Japanese person does that. I know that there are some parts where they do that. It's a practice. Such practice exists in Japan. Because they appreciate, they want to beautify embellish the process.
The imperfection almost.
The imperfections. Imagine for women who are so self-conscious and so critical amongst each other, imagine if they were to embrace a mindset like that, how beautiful, that would be. And then Just Green writes, towards the very end, something beautifully written. He says, I feel a strong connection with the organic, subtle, ambiguous, and elusive nature of wabi-sabi. Even the Japanese cannot rationalize it. The rough edges, aged patinas, the appreciation of weathered forms and base materials. It is the perfect antidote to the outwardly westernized synthesis of perfection that we succumb to daily. It speaks more softly, discreetly, unassuming, a visual poetic language uncluttered by modern technological thinking. Boom!
Wow.
How profound, huh?
Yeah, that's deep.
That's very. And then he ends with a beautiful picture of a decaying sunflower, which you can see right now. Wow. All right. Well, that's enough for philosophy. I mean, were you aware that in Japan they do that?
I can't say I was aware before, but considering the little bit that I was exposed to Japan, I can absolutely see it. Because again, like when I mentioned about the truck and these things, everything wasn't perfect, but everything was maintained with a sense of pride. And again, I think even if something was broken, the fact that it's repaired and the imperfections are there, they're not hidden. They are, they're repaired and it's still functional, the item, and it's still valuable. There's still value and function, even though it's not perfect. And it's true, I think, here in Western culture.
Amen.
They see that. I gotta admit, I'm one person. Not to. I guess I can definitely associate with that wabi-sabi. I like to try to fix everything. I don't like to throw away anything. And it's funny because I'm always going back and forth with the missus. There's a little crack in something and the missus, throw it out. And I go, no.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can repair it or I can use it for something else. And so I guess inadvertently, without knowing the term, I obviously say I am a fan of wabi-sabi because I do this personally on my daily life.
I think
I never realized it.
The takeaway, that's exactly what I was saying earlier when I said, I didn't know that I was such a big fan of Decay until I started working on this video, right? Because we're all, well, I don't know, all of us, but some things, for example, cannot be manufactured because they're manufactured by time. Mm-hmm. Something that is rained on, piece of wood that is rained on, is weathered properly. Yeah, you can imitate it, but it'll never be the same as the actual wood that's been, almost rotten. It's just weathered wood.
Which grew and was shaped in that form.
Yes, absolutely. Even mountains with erosion and whatnot, you're looking at decay at its best. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then we go to the next area, and then we're going to close it to continue to decompose in the comfort of our beds, I guess. we're going to talk about literature.
Believe it or not, I studied 19th century French poetry.
What a waste of time. I mean, for someone else, that would be an incredible waste of time.
But then the movement became a morbid type of literature, like Edgar Allan Poe. In Ireland, the Irish writer, of course, Oscar Wilde. If you read them, they're associated with the opposite: decay, darkness, melancholy, right? But most interesting, as it pertains to literature, is the fascination. I'm reading right now from Google. The fascination with the spaces that is widespread and perennial, decaying structures, derelict places, abandoned lots, and other urban imperfections that have been the inspiration for so many artists and writers since so long ago. But the obsession, this person says, in the 21st century literature, the obsession is not something of the past. In recent years, much literature about the topic has been published, trying to explain why the ruin prompts such instinctive responses in us that are filled with melancholy, nostalgia, and imagination. Yes. When I was a child in Argentina, in the farms, there were abandoned houses in the big farms. And these little abandoned houses were really bricks, no roof, most of them. A tree had grown in the center of one of them. And they're referred to as taperas, T-A-P-E-R-A-S. Anyone from Argentina listening knows what a tapera is. In my novel, in the novel I wrote that my soul, the character's soul was a tapera. That means it's in Spanish, right? It's an abandoned house. And it's such a symbolic thing because the house is decaying, but a tree that symbolizes growth, it grows in the center. I think what I take away from today is a rather short video, is that decay is not all that bad. And to some degree, like you said, we are compelled, right, by things that are decayed, certain things that are decayed, like a good wine or a first edition of a classical literature book, or it can be a classic car for somebody watching who likes cars, right?
Oh, an aged steak.
From Japan.
Oh, well, so yeah, the Wagyu beef, aged a month.
Yeah,
a month in decay.
Yeah, and wabi sabi, my friend. All right, it's just you and I tonight. I want to keep it short.
Before we end it, I don't know if you are going to end it right now. Were you going to say something, or you were going to end it?
I was about to cut you off and just end it.
So before you end it, just want to say again, I know this. Decay always has such a negative. Is always focusing on the diminishing life, diminishing biological aspects, but diminishing everything. But there's another side to decay, and I know we briefly touched on this before we started, which is, I don't know if a lot of people realize decay are the seeds to then bring about life. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at, if you think about it, even something as simple as compost. I know you grew up on near farmland, and but a lot of times people take compost, which is basically decayed items, old coffee grinds, eggshells, banana peels, and you put it all together and you let that continue to decay, and this is now fertilizer to help new life.
Yeah.
And just little things like that. Stars. They say that when a sun decays, and it turns into other things that can blow up, and then it seeds the rest of the galaxies in the universe. So decay, it is a process that is always ongoing. However, decay leads to new life, and in a way, we are always being recycled. Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you die, you get buried in the ground, your body decays, and it becomes the minerals and nutrients for new life.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I know I always tend to be a little bit positive as well, but that is a big part of decay that a lot of people, they just focus on the decaying part and the dying part. But, a lot of times they don't focus on this is also going to regenerate new life.
Yeah. I think the autumn has a sympathy for decay. And I do love the resurrection of nature in the spring, for example. So the decay doesn't have to be negative. And my take on this is anytime there's something that is inescapable, we must manage to learn to live with it.
Yeah, we got to embrace it. Absolutely.
Because what can you do? I mean, it is very. I'm going to finish today dedicating a quote to any woman watching this video, or to the one person, if you happen to be a woman watching this video. Once again, I should tell you that I really don't think that this video is going to help anyone. And I think I want to make clear again that this is not the goal of what we do. So if you're watching this in hopes of healing or changing, which is impossible, I'm sorry to let you down.
Scorpion and the Frog, I get it. We got to talk about that one day.
But since we're in the Japanese, Natsuo Kirino wrote, and with this we close today. In order to induce the process of decay, water is necessary. I think that in the case of women, men are the water. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you in the next video.
All right. On that note, peace.